We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Beis Amud Aleph in Meseches Pesachim. This is Pesachim Daf 102a. The Gemara in the previous summit had just asked a question on Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda held that a person, if he's eating something that requires a bracha achrona, mein shalosh, a chashav a bracha achrona, so Rav Chisda said, even if you change locations, you don't need a new bracha. And the Gemara asked a question from a brisa that seems to contradict that. And the Gemara answers, Manton Akiros, who's the author, who is the Tana who authors that brisa of Akiros, of uprooting yourself. Rabbi Yehuda, that is just the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, meaning it's not everybody's opinion. The Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, Chaverim shayu mesubin. Let's say you have a group of people, they're sitting and they're eating. Va'akru ragleihem leilech lebeis hakneses or lebeis hamedrash. Again, they get up, they uproot their feet in order to go to shoulder to the beis medrash. As we said before, the lashon of akru ragleihem implies they're eating something that requires a chashav, a bracha achrona, bracha mein shalosh at the very least. So kashein yotzin ein tu'unin bracha lemafreya, or kashein chozrin ein tu'unin bracha lechatzchila. So when they leave, they don't need a bracha achrona. When they return, they don't need a bracha rishona. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda says, when is this true? Bizman sheinichu sham mixas chaverim. That's if they leave some friends behind. Avalo yinichu sham mixas chaverim. But if they don't leave anyone behind, meaning they all get up and go, kishein yotzin tu'unin bracha lemafreya. Then when they get up and when they leave, they need a bracha achrona. Or kishein chozrin tu'unin bracha lechatzchila. When they return, they need a bracha rishona. And that's exactly what it says over here. Even though they're having something, as Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, even though they're having something that requires the bracha mein shalosh, they're still going to require a new bracha, assuming everyone leaves. And the Gemara says, Ela taima dvidvar matunim bracha lachrein b'mekoman. So the Gemara makes the following diak. The whole reason for this brisa, why you need this, why in this particular case you need a new bracha, but the Gemara continues and draws the following implication from the brisa. Ela taima dvidvar matunim bracha lachrein b'mekoman. According to the Chachamim of this brisa, the only reason you don't need a new bracha is because you're talking about something that requires a chashav a bracha achrona. But if you would have something that doesn't require a bracha achrona in its place, something that, let's say, only requires a bar nefashos, afilu l'rabbanan, then even according to the Rabbanan, kishen yotzin tunin bracha l'mafreya, or kishen chozrin tunin bracha l'chatzchila. Even according to the Rabbanan, when you leave, you're going to need to make a bracha achrona. When you come back, you'll need a new bracha rishon. In other words, the shinoi makom, when it comes to something that just requires a bar nefashos, is going to require a new bracha. Let us say that this is a refutation of Rabbi Yochanan. This is Rabbi Yochanan that we learned previously, who was very lenient and said that shinoi makom does not require someone to have a new bracha. But the Gemara says, didn't we already refute Rabbi Yochanan before? Right after the Gemara had quoted Rabbi Yochanan previously, the Gemara immediately brings a brisa and says that Rabbi Yochanan is refuted. So the Gemara says, Neima meha nami tavet yufta. The Gemara says, yeah, but let us say that this brisa as well is a refutation of Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara says, Amar lach Rabbi Yochanan, no, because Rabbi Yochanan can respond to you as follows. Hu adin da afilu dvarim she'ein tunin bracha la'achrein b'mekoma nami ein tzrichin levarich. It could be that according to the brisa, even if you had something that did not require a bracha achrona b'mekoman, meaning it only had a bar nefashos, you would not need a new bracha. It could be that the brisa holds any shinoi makom, you don't need a new bracha. V'hadzikatani akru raglein. So why did the brisa specifically talk about akru raglein, meaning specifically something which is a bracha achrona mein shalosh? Lo diacha kocho de Rabbi Yehuda. The point of the brisa was to tell you the strength of Rabbi Yehuda's position. Diafilu dvarim shetunin bracha lachrein b'mekoman. Even items which require a bracha achrona in their place, meaning they require this bracha mein shalosh, even in those situations, the only reason you don't need a new bracha is because you left some people behind, according to Rabbi Yehuda. But if you didn't leave anyone behind, then according to Rabbi Yehuda, when you leave, you're going to need a bracha achrona. When you return, you need a bracha lechatzchila, even though it's talking about foods that require a mein shalosh. And the Gemara says, Tanya kavasei de Rav Chisda, we have a brisa that supports Rav Chisda. The brisa says, Chaverim shayu mesubin lishtos yayin. You have chaverim who are sitting around drinking wine. Wine is something that requires a bracha mein shalosh. V'yakru raglein v'chazru. They uproot themselves and then they return. Ein tzrichin levarich. You don't need a new bracha. Again, you see, like Rav Chisda, shinoi makom by something like wine does not need a new bracha. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, b'nei chabura shayu mesubin v'kiddush alein hayom. Let's say you have people, they're sitting around in a group and they're eating, and then Shabbos comes. So Mavian lo kos shel yayin, you bring them a cup of wine. The Omer Allah of Kedushas Hayom, they say Kiddush. The Sheni Omer Allah birchas hamazon, and then you bring a second cup and you bench. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, That's consistent with Rabbi Yehuda before, that you have to stop the meal. Once Shabbos comes, you need to stop the meal. Rabbi Yossi says, Ochel v'olech ad shetechshach. You can continue to eat until it gets dark, meaning even after it gets dark, just continue the meal. And the Rashbam over here explains, Tanu Rabbanim b'nei Chabura shayu mesuban v'kiddush alein hayom, mevi'in lo kos shel yayin v'yomer lo kiddushas hayom be'emtza sudaso, v'asheni miyad omer lo birchas hamazon umafsik. The key here is they have to stop the meal. Kedu omer Rabbi Yehuda la'el. This is what Rabbi Yehuda said before. Umi u'hoil v'yigia shas kiddush. But the Rashbam says, the pshat in the Gemara is, since the time for kiddush has arrived, tzarech l'kaddish l'chatchila. You do need to make kiddush first. So you make kiddush, and then you immediately bench. Lashon acher garsin, and there's another lashon which has the gear sarishon omer lo birchas hamazon sheni omer lo kiddush hayom, has it reversed. The first cup of wine you bench, then you say kiddush. Over Tosefta, the brachos mugach lashon rishon. The Rashbam says that Tosefta in brachos supports the first version. Rabbi Yossi omer ochlin v'ochlin ad shetigmor sudasan. So the way you understand Rabbi Yossi is you keep eating until you finish the meal. Inami holchin v'ochlin mishatechshach. Or the way you read it would be you continue to eat even after it gets dark. Point is you don't need to stop the meal. For Rabbi Yossi l'taimi d'lididei in mafsikin klal. Rabbi Yossi is following his opinion. According to him, you don't need to stop at all. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Beis Amud Beis.